The Japanese government 500 pesos from 1944. A few years into the Japanese occupation of the Philippines, inflation spiraled out of control. Larger denomination notes were needed to meet the currency demand. In 1944, 100 pesos banknotes were introduced and 500 pesos followed soon after. The 500 pesos have only two blocks, PF and PG. The notes with PF carry a watermark of the Abaca plant. Strangely, the next issue, with the block PG, have the quarterfoil watermark. This is the only note in the Philippines Rizal series with this watermark, and it's always puzzled me as to why. Was this a mistake made by the printer? Could it merely be a paper shortage due to supply issues from Japan, or is there more to this story? From 1939 to 1945, MacArthur and his troops, which included my grandfather, were stationed in Brisbane. The Afro-Americans camped south of the Brisbane River and whites north of the river. MacArthur's headquarters was located in the middle of Brisbane City. His office has been preserved and is now part of a museum. This is MacArthur's office as it stands today. Around the corner from MacArthur's headquarters was Tom Erner's printery. MacArthur ordered them to print counterfeit Japanese government banknotes. MacArthur supplied the printing plates to the printery and they adapted them to suit their Thompson Crown letterpress printer. Surprisingly, the family-owned printing company still exists today, with third-generation printers operating the presses. The grandsons tell a story of how their grandfather secretly printed Japanese money for MacArthur. Unfortunately, the printer's samples were destroyed in the floods of 1974. They were not exactly sure what banknotes were printed, other than them being counterfeit Japanese notes for the Philippines. Could they have been counterfeit Philippines 500 pesos? More than 50 years ago, Ali Slabow reported that printing plates were stolen from a Philippines printing plant towards the end of the war. They were smuggled to Australia to make counterfeit 500 pesos. The block PF was already in limited circulation, so rather than flooding the market with these, they printed notes with the next letter sequence, which was block PG. Soon after the war, the 500 peso banknotes were rare. None of the PG notes were found in the Japanese Treasury Depository in the Philippines, which may indicate that the Japanese didn't print the PG notes. I'd stop short of saying that all 500 pesos with the block PG are Allied counterfeits, as there are graded specimens and some PG notes appear to have been in Japan soon after the war, and many are available in Japan today.